Is this the last route of easy entry into the UK for international doctors? As a doctor, getting a license to work in the UK is the easy part. The hard part is getting a job. I have people contacting me quite often about what is the job prospect for working in the UK and how they can secure a job in the country. The most brute force advice out there is to apply for at least 200 jobs on track jobs. Just go for it and keep applying day and night. And don't cry about it at all until you have at least 200 job applications done. And then you may secure one interview. Not to mention, even when you do get the interview, you might not even get shortlisted, or you still might not get a job. Why? Because somebody out there with 3 PhDs is competing for the same post as you are. Now, this method is no secret, and I frankly wish that this method did not exist at all, but there is this one trick to come into the UK with a job secured in your hand that I want you all to know. And frankly, I wish this method did not exist because it brings to the UK doctors who are not yet ready for the NHS. But since it's pretty much being used by every single person out there and their friends and their cousins, I didn't want you to be a stranger to it either, and I want you to maximize your chances of getting a job as well. Until, of course, the GMC or the Royal College cracks down on this method. Until then, it's totally legal. The cries of there are vacancies in the NHS, there's vacancies in the NHS, have brought on a ton of international medical graduates to try to take the PLAB 1, the PLAB 2, and get a GMC license to work in the country. This PLAB is now soon to be called UK MLA. I am no exception, I too came via this route. Now, as a consequence of these cries, the competition has increased so much that it feels like you have not run away from your home country's tough medical entrance exam, you have come back to it. And there are at least 2 people competing for the same post that previously, maybe even 5 years ago, did not have a single person wanting to take that seat. And trust grade posts have over 100 clinical attaches waiting for their chance at the interview and to secure a job. And so, the idea of vacancies is long gone. Only its whispers remain. So is there nothing you could do except hunker down and fill out 200 job applications on track? No, there is another. Along comes the MSRA exam, the Multiple Specialty Recruitment Exam. MSRA is a specialty entrance exam. For example, what you would say NEET PG in India, or once you have your UFMLE steps completed, trying to apply into a postgraduate training program. This MSRA is quite similar to those exams. MSRA helps you apply for a specialty training seat. So it's only an MCQ based test, and if you manage to pass your PLAB 1, then you can easily pass MSRA Part 1. So the exam is not too difficult and you can definitely start preparing for it. So why am I telling you this? Is a job guaranteed if you score well in the MSRA? Well, yes and no. You see, ever since COVID, 2 specialties that recruited through the MSRA have stopped taking interviews as well as portfolio assessments. So 100% of your score is used to assess your rank. So these specialties are relying on your MSRA score only. However, note that this is not true for any other specialty because, let's say for radiology, MSRA only makes up about 20% of your net score. The rest 80% will have to come from 50% being the interview and the remaining 30% being what you've done in your portfolio. So like I was saying, the 2 specialties that do not require any other interview or portfolio assessment are GP training and psychiatry. No wonder the competition for these specialties has gone through the roof. Now every single person who has become aware of this route is straight up applying for them, even if they have no intention of pursuing them long term. After all, it's just one single exam to secure the rest of your life in UK. GP and psychiatry entrance through the MSRA have been saving people from hardship in their home countries for a long time now. Oh, and the best part, you don't even have to come to the UK to take the exam. The MSRA exam is conducted by a company called Pearson VUE, and they have branches in multiple countries. India alone, for example, has over 10 centers. So you can just walk over to your nearest test center and take the exam. And here's the best part about the GP training. The NHS has something called TERS incentive scheme, where they give you a bit of extra money if you are ready to take up a training seat in an area that has historically low number of people applying for it. Historically low. Not anymore. So why did they have low number of applicants in the beginning to begin with? It's because, many people were tied down by their home, by their family living in someplace else, and they did not want to travel to an area with not enough infrastructure and facilities. And so these areas, which are comparatively lagging behind the rest of the UK, would see less number of applicants. But as an international medical graduate with no house in the country, no family to tie you down, you can take up jobs in these places just right out of the box, without any worry about anybody else. And the best part is, you will get a £20,000 incentive to work in a TERS area, because there were not enough applicants historically. Now that's all well and good, but listen closely to the salient points that I have about the negatives of taking this route. And yes, there are negatives. No matter how many years of experience you have in your home country, coming to the NHS as a specialty training is not the right way to begin training in the NHS. It's just too tough all of a sudden. You're expected to know a lot of things right out of the box. Although good people and nice seniors are always around to help you, a 4-monthly rotation in GP training and hospitals is not really enough to know the workings of the NHS. I mean, everyone is a beginner at some point and they all have to learn about the workings of a hospital and the healthcare system. A specialty training post is not the first place to start that. That's what the foundation year is for. And plus, your seniors will be more forgiving of you if you ask basic questions as a foundation trainee, because, well, they expect that you are learning these things at this point in your career, which is just right. A specialty trainee is expected to know all this already, and how can someone tell if you're a specialty trainee or a foundation doctor? Foundation doctor meaning in your internship year? It's based on your lanyard color. Specialty trainees, at the core trainee level 1, have a different colored lanyard than a foundation doctor, and you have your lanyard on you at all times. Now, this is an add-on to the first point, but also very essential. As a doctor in the UK, you have something called an appraisal that happens annually. And to get ready for these appraisals, you need to collect something called a multi-source feedback, MSF, or TAB, Team Assessment of Behavior. Here, you ask your team members to rate you on an online portal in different domains, like how good is your patient communication skill, how good is your skill with interaction among other doctors, how good is your knowledge of the specialty that you are in. And as a foundation trainee, your colleagues will be a bit more lenient and will be more open to seeing that you are learning and will give you a positive feedback at that stage. But as you get senior, you're already expected to know a lot of things. So the reviews might not be favorable. If not necessary, you'll get a bad review, but you definitely could. And then once you get negative review, your ARCP outcome might not be favorable, and you will feel like everybody is against you, and you will start to dislike your colleagues, your workplace, your patients, and you will think everybody is being racist towards you. Not to mention, doctors who come through the MTI route, Medical Training Initiative, into an IMT 3 year are no different. They are expected to lead in areas by your IMT 3 year, and you don't know enough. So your colleagues will look negatively towards you when you can't make clinical decisions about the logistics of patient care. I've had this happen already, so I know that's not the best situation for a senior doctor to find themselves in, when they don't know things which somebody 2 years junior to them is already aware of. Now, the other point I would like to make is that GP training traditionally had less number of applicants for it, but now with the increased number of competition, all the seats are getting filled, which sounds like a good thing, but then the doctors who are coming via this route into the UK don't ever intend to become GPs, they just want to begin a job in the UK. So they keep preparing for some other exam, and when the opportunity knocks, they leave GP training and join their intended specialities. So this hurts UK healthcare at a foundational level and encourages the government to cut down on the seats for GP trainees and rather open up seats for medically associated practitioners who are not doctors, but they fill in for reduced number of doctors. We have physician associates and ACPs, advanced clinical practitioners, who work in pretty much the same role as doctors while not having a medical degree. The MAPs, the medically associated practitioners, were introduced into the country to help doctors with different tasks. The starting name was physician assistants, which then got changed to physician associates. And now, even though they have a certain role to be done, they are expanding and covering a lot more ground than before. So as long as there is a fine balance maintained, it's all well and good. But when they start filling in roles for doctors, this is all admin issues, nothing on the MAPs themselves. The MAPs were introduced for a set number of tasks to be done so that doctors can see patients with more focus and not be inundated by tasks which can be done by MAPs. But nowadays, due to shortage of doctors, the MAPs have started taking on small roles that normally would be a doctor's task alone. So that hurts patient healthcare, and it is raising concerns about patient safety as well in the country. Also, the newly recruited MAPs will then compete for locum jobs that are otherwise created by the absence of a doctor. This will reduce the number of locum jobs that are available for other doctors to take up, because now the MAPs are competing for the same roles. And this is called the locums drying up. So, when you are told that in the UK, even if your salary is not enough, you can earn a little bit more by taking on locum jobs, that's all a fever dream. The locum jobs have pretty much evaporated and will continue to evaporate as long as these methods of entering into the UK training program continue. Because that just leads to a reduced number of doctors in the country because the GP trainees move on to other specialities. So in conclusion, I would say it's best to start from the ground up. Start from an SHO level, start from a foundational level where you get to learn everything as a complete beginner and everybody is eager to teach you stuff. And then only move on to a training role after figuring out which training department is best for you. However, I will not hold it against you if you take the PLAB or the UKMLA plus GMC registration plus MSRA plus GP training route, because everyone else is doing it. So while you are sitting there and feeling sad and wanting to take the proper route, somebody out there who did not think of all these things just went ahead and secured a future for themselves. This will leave you in a poor position later on. So while this route is legally available to you and you are struggling to find a trust grade job in the UK, you can definitely go for it. Finally, I hope that direct entry of IMGs into training in the UK is a bit more regulated and some sort of a commitment is required from the government. And that's all for today. Thank you for watching. My name's Abhinav Kumar. I know I have not had a lot of videos in the past year, but I've had a couple big things going on in my life. For starters, I was preparing for the MSRA exam and I will be starting GP training shortly. So let's hope to get a few more videos out for you to keep watching. Until then, over and out.